What's up, Jets Nation, and welcome back to another episode of the Juicy Jet Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Rooney, and Super Bowl Sunday is one day away. It's both happy and sad. It's sad because, number one, we got to watch the Patriots in the Super Bowl again. Number two, it's the last football game of the year, and then it's, 6 months, no football. But at least there's a lot going on in the offseason for the Jets, which will make it a little bit exciting. And then, of course, the Jets got a new offensive coordinator that we need to talk about as well. So we're going to keep this episode really quick since we did a whole Super Bowl preview podcast last Sunday. So if you haven't checked that one out, please do. And shout out to both Dave and Michael for helping me out with that one. But let's start off today with the offensive coordinator search because it's big news. Big news for the Jets. It's probably the second most important position on the actual coaching staff. You go from head coach and then you got offensive coordinator. Especially now with Aaron Glenn leading the defense, calling plays, it feels like he's looking for that head coach of the offense, which I think he found. So you might remember that the New York Jets had a few people in for in-person interviews this week, which include Darrell Bevel, who used to be the OC for the Seahawks in their previous Super Bowl, which we talked about, Greg Roman, who just came off being the offensive coordinator for the Chargers, who couldn't put up a single touchdown in the playoffs against the Patriots this past playoffs. And then, of course, Frank Reich, who was the Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, and then bounced around coaching the Colts, the Panthers, and then Stanford. So they bring all three of them in, and it looks like they found their guy, and their guy is Frank Reich. Now, for me, I have no problem with Frank Reich. I think there's definitely some questions and concerns about him. But if you told me probably a month ago that Frank Reich was going to be our offensive coordinator, I would say, okay, cool. Let's do it. Let's ride. I mean, he's had a lot of success in the past. Like you look at that Eagles team where he didn't necessarily call plays, but I mean, look at what that offense did under Doug Peterson, and to beat the New England Patriots with a backup quarterback in Nick Foles, that's nothing to just shrug off. And I also think he had some challenges with quarterbacks in both Indianapolis and in Carolina, especially in Carolina, where it sounded like the coaching staff did not want to draft Bryce Young, but ownership did, which obviously there's nothing you can do about that when you're Frank Reich. So I think he was stuck in a couple of really tough situations. The thing that really worries me is it sounded like he was on his way out the door. It sounds like he was ready to go off into the sunset, fade into retirement, and just be happy doing what he does for the rest of his life. But Andrew Luck came calling and said, I really need your help. You're my buddy. Can you be the interim head coach of Stanford while I turn this program around? And he said yes. So I thought after this year he would just go retire. But it sounds like he's back. And I think the big reasons for that is, number one, Frank Reich used to play quarterback for the New York Jets. So he has familiarity with the building. He wasn't around when Woody Johnson was there. So I think that was still Leon Hess as the owner at the time. But he did play with Aaron Glenn. I think that was during the Rich Kotite year, where we were like the worst team in NFL history. They played together. So there is some familiarity there. It sounds like they're friends, and it sounds like he was like the no doubt candidate for Aaron Glenn, which is great. Bring your buddies in, someone you know, someone you trust, and if it doesn't work, you guys go down with the Titanic together. And if it does work, then you look like a genius because you saved the Jets. So I am very nervous about the fact that he was looking to retire and now he's kind of back into the fold. And then I think the big question is, what does this personnel look like? Like I don't think I know enough about how to explain this whole Frank Reich situation until I see who our quarterback is. Once I know that, then you can kind of craft like, okay, let's look at what he did with previous quarterbacks that looked like this in the past. Let's see who the young quarterback is that we draft and what is that going to look like. So I think there's a lot of questions that are just unanswered right now that you kind of have to wait. And right now, I think most Jets fans can take like a sigh of relief because there was this mass panic over the past 4 weeks about who our defensive coordinator, Engstrand, the offensive coordinator search, all this stuff that was going on. And now it's like, okay, let's just relax. The combine's coming up. We've got free agency on the way. We got to find out if we're going to franchise tag Breece Hall in a couple weeks. And then you got the draft. So like some fun stuff's going to start happening where the team is going to look a lot different, which is great to see. And we'll kind of go from there. So Frank Reich, your new offensive coordinator, like I said, no big thoughts about it at this point. I'm a little nervous just because of his previous stops, hasn't been in the NFL in a while. And the fact that he wasn't really all in on football most recently. But we'll see how it goes. Now, aside from that, we still have an entire staff to fill out. Now, there's one guy that is actually back on our staff who was here, I think, a little more than 10 years ago, which is Carl Dunbar. Carl Dunbar was brought back as our defensive line coach. He coached back in the day with like Sheldon Richardson, Quentin Coples, Muhammad Wilkerson. So he was a part of that. Snacks Harrison. And, I say some of those names, and some Jets fans might feel some kind of way because of the way it ended with those guys. But they were a pretty solid defensive line at the time. And Carl Dunbar just comes from coaching Alabama and now coaching the Pittsburgh Steelers. So he was working with some top-of-the-line pass rushers, Cam Hayward, folks like that. So I love the idea of bringing him back in. We'll see what that means for the actual defense with Aaron Glenn. Like, are we switching from, we are 4-3, or we are 3-4? I don't know yet. I'm assuming we'll be a 3-4. That's what it sounds like the rumors are. So we'll see what happens there. But I thought that was a really good pull for the New York Jets to get him back. And then there's some rumors floating around about some other folks that we might bring in, but I don't think anything's official. I think we stole a tight ends coach, for example, but we'll talk about all of that when it actually drops. So a lot of stuff going on still in Jets land, and hopefully our boy Sam Darnold can help make everything better by beating the Patriots this weekend. Actually, before I dive into the Super Bowl, one thing I did want to point out, which is absolutely crazy. Well, number one, I just watched this YouTube video of NYJ Mike and NYJ Matt. I think it's called the Broadway Jets YouTube channel that they have. They are hilarious. The two of the funniest guys on Twitter. They're awesome. The stuff they put out is really great, and they love like messing around with like some of the beat reporters and things like that. So they're really funny. If you remember, I think it was NYJ Matt. I don't want to mix them up. I think it was Matt who actually sent the breakfast sandwich to the New York Jets, One Jets Drive when we were trying to bring in Mike Williams. So that's that crew. I listened to their podcast. It was 2 hours and 45 minutes long of them just listing the top 100 craziest moments in the last 10 years for the New York Jets. And oh my God, the amount of things that have happened to this franchise over those 10 years, which is just unfathomable. Like, you're sitting there and you hear something at like number 87 and you're like, how are there 86 better things or crazier things that happened than this? So there's some wild stuff in there. So I would highly recommend watching it. But I think there's a new thing that they have to add to it. We found this out last night, which is extremely sad, but extremely crazy, that former Jets first-round pick, linebacker out of Ohio State, Darron Lee, is now been arrested for first-degree murder of his girlfriend. Absolutely insane. Darron Lee was never really worked out as a linebacker for us, and he was always very active on social media, and he was always fighting, complaining, arguing with people. So we always knew he was a little, he's a linebacker. Most linebackers are kind of crazy a little bit. They got to have a little bit of that side. But to see that happen is just absolutely unbelievable. So you go from, Mark Sanchez getting arrested for stabbing a 70-year-old Uber driver to now Darron Lee murdering his girlfriend. It's just a mess. And, you got to wonder if CTE plays a part in any of that. But very sad, but it's also crazy that all this stuff keeps happening to this franchise. And one of my buddies, Justin, said, it's like there's a dark cloud just hanging over this organization. And when stuff like this happens, you kind of feel that, which is really tough. So wild story. I'm sure there's going to be more that comes out about it over the next few days now that it's finally dropped that he's been arrested. But we'll see how it goes. All right, let's talk about this Super Bowl. So obviously a rematch of 11 years ago. It's the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. We did that whole podcast last week, so I'm going to add my flavor to some of it since it was mostly a Patriots viewpoint that we were looking at it from. From my perspective, one, I'm just so happy for Sam Darnold. I'm very excited to see him in this game. I'm really hoping we get good Sam Darnold and we don't get fall to pieces Sam Darnold, because I think that's just going to be crushing on national TV with millions of people watching him falling back into his old ways. But I think he's way better now than he's ever been. He looks awesome. I thought that NFC Championship game was the best game I've ever seen him play. And their entire team is just a wagon right now. Their defense is playing incredible. The run game looks awesome. Mike McDonald knows exactly what he's doing at the right time. I'm loving watching this pass rush they have too. Nick Emanwari has been unbelievable as a rookie safety. And I saw he actually got hurt during practice earlier this week, but it sounds like he's okay and good to go. So that's good news. But I don't know. They just feel like it feels like the NFC was just so much better than the AFC this year, and I'm very curious to see how this game actually plays out from that perspective. And Seattle's offensive line has also been pretty good. I think like Gray Zabel, that rookie guard, has been awesome, especially in the run game. So I don't know. I feel good about the Seahawks, and of course I'm going to root for Sam, Leonard Williams, Josh Myers. I don't really care about kickers, but Leonard definitely, because he deserves it too. He's bounced around from the Jets, Giants. He's been through a lot of bad situations. Uh, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think the big thing for me is how does Drake May play? I think he's the key. Like he hasn't played that well in the playoffs, but he's made big plays when he's had to, especially with his legs. So how does his legs factor in to this defensive game plan that Mike McDonald is going to put together for the Seattle Seahawks? And how do you stop that? I'm not that afraid of their wide receivers. I am afraid over the middle with their tight ends. I think they've done a good job with like Hunter Henry this year, getting them involved in the game. So we'll see what this defense can do, and can they take advantage of a Will Campbell, get to Drake May fast, because they have a powerful pass rush. They've been really good there this year. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see how Drake May handles all of that. And then from a Patriots defensive perspective, I think they have the pieces to actually hold up against the Seahawks. It's just how long till the dam breaks. JSN's going to get open eventually. How many yards can you hold him to? Can you keep him under 75? Like I think that's a question. Is Rashid Shaheed going to get that big long pass that he's gotten pretty much in every game this year? And then Kenneth Walker. Can you stop Kenneth Walker? Because he's been absolutely amazing in these playoffs. He's been running really hard, probably harder than I've seen him run in the past. And I wasn't always like the biggest Kenneth Walker guy, but now he's starting to, I'm starting to like him a little bit more. So I think that's going to be really interesting from a Patriots defensive perspective. And how does Christian Gonzalez play? How does their pass rush look? They can stop the run. They've been stopping the run for the past 12 weeks, and they've been awesome at it. So can Kenneth Walker bounce to the outside and all that kind of stuff? So we'll see. It's going to be really interesting. And then finally, the big piece is special teams. Both of these teams are awesome at special teams. Rashid Shaheed has run back a bunch of punts and kicks. And then you have, I think it's Marcus Jones on the Patriots has been awesome this year. So they've been, it's two electric teams that are just fundamentally sound on all sides of the ball. And then on top of that, you got great coaching. I think Mike Vrabel gets the bonus here because he's been around it a lot longer. He's played in Super Bowls. So I think that there's a lot that he can bring. And situationally, he's been outstanding this year with situational football, which I think you can only really learn by being in it. And I don't know if Mike McDonald has been a coach long enough to keep up with Vrabel in that mindset. But I also haven't had a problem with what Mike McDonald's been doing. So I think there's some really interesting things there. I'm wondering, this is always one of my big like parlay things that I always like look for. Will there be some like random trick play that we're not expecting that comes out? Like I always look for like one non-quarterback to throw a pass or something like that. Like what's going to be the crazy thing that like Josh McDaniels has been holding on to, or Clint Kubiak's been holding on to this entire offseason that they're ready to come out with. So I don't know. It's the last game of the year. Can't hold anything back now. That's how it goes. So final predictions for me in this Super Bowl. I do think the Seahawks take it. I think the Seahawks 31, the Patriots 24. I have a very hard time seeing this being a bad game. But I said that last year, and the Eagles blew out the Chiefs, so I didn't see that coming. So it could happen. You never know. But I do think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be competitive. And I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. And then I'm hoping and praying it's very hard for a non-quarterback to win MVP. So I'm going to go with Sam Darnold as MVP, and I think that would just be such a great story for his career from where he started with the Jets to now where he is, all the adversity he's had to overcome with the Jets, the Panthers, where else was he? The 49ers, the Vikings, and now here. It's just an awesome story, and can't wait to read the book one day. That's for sure. So that's where I'm at. And I think I said it earlier last week, but if I had one leg of a parlay that I would play, I think it was Rashid Shaheed over, I think it was 21.5 yards. It may have moved since last week, so you may have to check on that. But over receiving yards at 21.5, that's been good for me this entire offseason, entire playoffs. So I'm going to keep riding it for now. And, you got to think that they're going to have all eyes on JSN, so you never know which other receivers can get open. So that's all I've got for today. Obviously, there's a lot going on after the Super Bowl. There's going to be the combine. There's going to be franchise tagging going on. There's going to be free agency. So we got a lot of fun things to talk about. I do want to bring on a couple more guests because that was really fun doing that last Sunday. So I want to do that again. And we'll have like previews of free agency, who we think is going to stay, go, and all that kind of stuff. And we'll do obviously some mock drafts, all the fun stuff that Jets fans thrive on this offseason. So thank you all for listening. If you could follow me at JuicyJet25 all across YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, that would be amazing. If you can like, rate, subscribe, review, follow, all of that good stuff, that would help me out greatly. I appreciate the listen. I hope everybody enjoys the Super Bowl. Please, God, let the Seahawks win. I cannot take the Patriots winning another Super Bowl. That's just out of control. And yeah, we'll see how it goes from there. So thank you all for listening, and we will talk later. See ya. Go Seahawks.